episode of The Witching Hour. I am Perri. That is Haleigh. Haleigh, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which is really something to dig into.
Yeah, so, you shouldn't be watching this if you don't know this, because we're going to dig into spoilers eventually, but
yes.
Bandersnatch is the choose-your-own-adventure style of a Black Mirror episode/movie, I think some people are calling it, but that is what we're reviewing right now, briefly before we jump into our spoilers, because there's a lot of picking apart of every single narrative and ending to do right now. But briefly, non-spoiler, what did you think of the Bandersnatch experience?
I have really complicated feelings on it. I like a lot about it. There's a lot I don't love. It feels like a really exciting launch for something that Netflix is going to clearly be doing in the future, and it's it's an interesting step for Black Mirror. It's a perfect fit for the two of them to do together. Yeah. Obviously, it's almost like an anthology in that some of the stories are better than others. I like some of the endings I got a lot better than other ones. I'm really conflicted on it, but I think it's more interesting than great, if that makes sense.
I kind of get that. Overall, I liked the experience. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I didn't just stick with, let's say, one or two endings. Basically, every chance I got to continue, I took it.
Same.
And I think it is incredibly well crafted. The design of the whole thing is just mind blowing to me. And I also thought Fionn, Whitehead, and Will Poulter were great in it.
God,
the performances are just something else.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when you think about what they went through to make this, it's something like, I think they wound up with 5 hours of playable footage. When you think about them having to embody these characters in so many different situations, it's really something else. I think my main criticism of the Bandersnatch experience, though, especially when comparing it to other Black Mirror episodes that I've really liked, is that Bandersnatch left me a little empty. Mm-hmm. I still enjoyed the opportunity, and I think that this whole storytelling format has loads of potential, and there were beats that I really liked. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I guess I would just have to use the words empty and cold. I didn't feel, and not that I necessarily need something to have, the happiest ending. Everybody walks off into the sunset and all is well, but there is something that left me feeling more full from many other Black Mirror episodes than how I walked away from this one.
That makes sense. I think for me, the reason I'm so conflicted on it, because there's no part of me that goes, this is bad, you did bad.
Oh, not at all.
It's really cool and fun and interesting. However, it is Black Mirror, which is meant to sort of torture you, which is one thing when you're a passive viewer. But for me to then destroy someone's life, I'm too neurotic, too anxious, really, and too guilt-driven to do something like that. I can't tell you how many times I started it and got to the cereal and was like, nope, fuck this. I am not going to ruin his life over Cocoa Puffs or Crispies or whatever.
You didn't even know what was going to happen at that point.
But I know that because it's Black Mirror that it's going to ruin his life somehow, whatever cereal I choose. Which one ruins it more? So that was hard for me to get over, and actually I had to drink significantly before I could play it through.
Why am I not surprised?
I was like, I can't do this. I need a little bit of vodka, and then I was like, yeah, I got this. I don't care. Boom.
The choose your own adventure thing is used in a very effective way here, because you don't necessarily get to kick back and relax and choose whatever you please in however much time you want to have. It forces you to choose fast, and there were a whole bunch of instances where that choice came up, and I was so into the story that I wasn't expecting it, and I was caught off guard. I'm like, what do I choose? What do I choose? And then I click something. I'm like, no, I didn't mean to choose that. Can I go back and choose the other? But you can't go back.
Well, they do provide you with that opportunity when you reach, they're not really endings, they're more codas.
I mean, in the specific moment.
Right, right.
There was, I'll get into it in the spoiler section, but I felt like I was kind of pushed in one direction to choose something, and then I seriously regretted it, and then there was no turning back.
Interesting. I wonder if it's the same one where I was like, even after I had my vodka, I was like,
I have a feeling
I might need to turn this off.
I have a feeling it was.
Yeah.
All right, I'm too curious. So before we jump into spoilers, I do recommend giving Bandersnatch a go. I think it is a very well-executed first go at choose-your-own-adventure storytelling. And I think with Netflix in particular, this is a format that they should continue to dig into. And I'm curious to know what happens if they start to apply this to maybe other shows and other topics where it's just an interesting thing that this is a choose-your-own-adventure experience about a person creating a choose-your-own-adventure story.
So on the nose, arguably, but fun.
Curious to see how it applies to other types of stories.
I can't, just before we move on to spoilers completely, I can't wait to see this in something less like damaging, like a fantasy story or something, and be like, do I take the unicorn or do I
like where you want both things?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would really.
I'm surprised I hadn't thought about that.
Much more
so
enjoy that experience.
All right, so now is the time. We are going full spoilers from here on out. So if you have not watched Bandersnatch, now is the time to exit, go watch it. Come back after you've done that. But then again, I guess we almost don't even know what we could potentially spoil for those who haven't experienced every minute of the 5 hours. And based on what I've read online, it's nearly impossible for anyone to experience it all because there's certain footage that even the filmmakers themselves can't get back to.
Didn't they say there's something like 10 million permutations or something crazy?
It sounds like it could be that.
I don't know. It's interesting. But yes, back to our discussion point.
Okay. Do we want to just go all the way into the thing that freaked us out?
Yeah.
Okay, what was it for you?
The suicide. The first jumping off the building. When he jumped off the building, I was like, what the fuck? I don't know if I can do this.
I didn't say no, as in that was an easy decision for me to make. The one that really bothered me is when you have to kill his father.
Oh, I was so already traumatized that I didn't care anymore. And in fact, I got, I guess, the good ending the first time I reached a full ending, not one of the go back.
So the for anybody who wants to, map it out, the first ending you likely got is when you decide to take the deal and rush the game. Because that happens very, very early on, right?
But that's not a proper ending, is it? Does it end with a review?
Yes, it ends with a review, and he gets a piss poor review because he rushed it.
I don't think I did that then.
Really?
No, I didn't take the deal.
Because that seemed like the first most obvious choice to me, where I identify with him as being a person who wants so badly to get this experience at a game company, then he gets his opportunity, and you're not going to pass on it. You're going to take it, but then he's got to rush his creation, and it leads to a negative review, and then you go all the way back.
I don't know. Again, I was not totally sober, so I did not take that deal. My first ending was the very, very violent, unfortunate one where he cuts up his father, and I had.
Oh wow! You just went for it right away. You didn't try to bury him first?
No, because I was. Like I'm saying, I was so traumatized at this point that I was like, yeah, cut him up. I don't care.
The dog digs him up anyway, so it's the wrong choice. But it's incredible how many times I tried to maneuver around the most violent ending, and then I landed there anyway.
I think I got to a point where I was like, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it the opposite of all my instincts anyway. So I just went like ham on it. I just went hard.
I think I was too hesitant to do that. Also, there was something about it that reminded me of, like online quizzes, like personality quizzes, where I almost try to mentally apply this, this is, if I were this character, this would be my journey. So that's how I made my decisions the first time.
I made it very opposite. I was like, do the opposite of whatever your instinct is, because if I take it seriously, I'm going to be upset.
That'll make for an interesting discussion because apparently we went down two completely different paths.
I didn't do anything that was like logical.
I did quite a bit. And that's how I steered clear of the dad thing. But then all of a sudden, I had used up all my options down that path, and I had no other choice.
Yeah.
And also, I think the reason why I wound up choosing the kill your dad one is because right before that, I had gotten the not the vision, the something where the dad is revealed to be part of the organization manipulating him. So I'm like, well, what choice do I have now? So that's how I landed there.
So which endings have you been through?
I saw the super duper violent one where he chops up his dad. I got the Netflix one where
I got that one too.
I think that That might be my favorite.
Me too.
I think that one might be my favorite, but I think in close contention with that one for the favorite spot for me is also the one where we end up with Colin's daughter. Where
didn't see that. Oh.
where later on, like modern times,
Yeah.
she's now crafting a Bandersnatch game.
So I think I got that as a tail to killing and cutting up Dad.
Was that
it
the
was
tail
like
to
you
that?
get your review and it's the
And then
only
you
one.
wait. Then you wait through the credits and then you get that, right?
'cause
Yeah.
That's the one where you get 5 stars.
I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So those are the two that stood out to me. I'm trying to remember which ones I didn't love. Like, 'cause maybe it's the one where the dad's part of the organization manipulating him or whatever. I don't think I was really satisfied by that ending, or it just didn't mean anything to me.
There hits a point where I think that being the ending becomes a little too predictable given his relationship. I mean, at the very beginning of the experience, I was so wrapped up in what happened with his mother and just how that could then fracture the father-son relationship. But then all of a sudden, once they reveal the pack thing, and then it's teased maybe that Dad could be part of that the second that came up, I'm like, oh, I saw that coming.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the problem.
I think you're right. And I tried, I don't always, like, the first night I did it a couple times, but then I tried to be like, wait, don't do it all in one night. Like, give yourself time to experience these stories, because it's not, I guess I thought that maybe it might be a choose your own adventure where it's all in this one world and different choices will take you around that world differently, but it's not. Different choices take you into different worlds entirely.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to Colin's whole speech. It's like goodbye, but we exist somewhere else in a different reality.
I told you I'd see you again.
Which, I mean, it plays into this entire format. I think, and that's one of the things that I think enriched the actual format of the storytelling is the fact that it mirrored what's actually happening in the story period, with him creating a game that's choose your own adventure, and also everything that Colin was saying. Also, it was kind of just all layered up on each other, which is why I'm curious to see what happens when they apply this format to something else.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that they can do with it, and I'm more excited, I think, by the format than the actual story of Bandersnatch itself, which I thought was serviceable and entertaining. And so this is something we just briefly touched on this before we started recording. Is it a movie? Is it a game? Is it a series of TV shows all in one experience, or TV episodes? What is it?
It's so hard to slap a label on it. It's so hard to slap a label on it, mainly because I almost don't want to apply the term TV show or TV episode or movie to it, because in my mind, let's just as an example, let's stick with movie. The movie is the idea of the filmmaker. The filmmaker is telling me their story. I'm not part of the story. I can't manipulate the story. So once you add that in, it's not fully their create. But actually, I mean, as I'm explaining it, then what's to stop a filmmaker or someone directing an episode of TV to say that my intention is for someone to experience it in the choose your own format, choose your own adventure format, and then it does fall into those categories.
Regardless of what you choose, you are experiencing one of their stories.
Well, that was one of the frustrations that I walked away from it with, and maybe it's not necessarily fair to judge this particular material with this in mind, but you know how I am. I like things neat and organized, and when it comes to canon also, I like to know, what is the real deal? What really happened? Especially when we're talking about a series like Black Mirror, where there's little things that connect all over the place. It's not necessarily like Star Wars canon, where everything that happened in Bandersnatch is going to completely influence the story that comes in the next episode, but there was something about that made me feel a little bit frustrated.
I can understand that. I'm less, that type of person.
Yeah.
We have contrasting personality types in a lot of ways. So that didn't bother me as much. What I find interesting is that my instinct when I talk to people about it is I don't say, did you watch Bandersnatch? I say, did you play Bandersnatch? And that, I guess, gives me my answer, which is that I consider it more of a game.
I could get behind that definition.
It's very tricky. I don't know. It's its own thing entirely.
I wonder if we'll hit a point where we're talking about, let's say, award season.
Yeah.
And it's, not that Bandersnatch is going to get any awards if it does or whatnot. But I mean, really, but come award season, where would you file Bandersnatch? Where do you think awards voting bodies would file it?
I'm trying to imagine if it was my own voting. Maybe, what is it? The TV movie or special programming category?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Because it doesn't really fit in anything else.
I don't think so.
But then, I guess that's where I put it. But if I were to award anything from this film, it would be Will Poulter, who I thought was just...
He's great in everything,
above and beyond.
He's so good.
He was so cheeky and fun in this.
I thought all the performances in this were actually really great.
Oh, they were. He's just the most
fun. Now that
fun.
I'm thinking about it, have you ever seen a poor performance in a Black Mirror episode?
No.
I feel like we always applaud Black Mirror as being this, brilliant display of crazy high concepts that make your head spin. But within them all, they also have just exceptional performances across the board.
They have incredible casting. The actors that they lock down in early episodes that have gone on to be forces in the industry. Now it's reversed. Now there's such a big brand name that they can get the biggest actors.
They can get. I'm sure. I can't wait to see what does happen with the next season because I have a feeling there's going to be a pretty big all-star roster on that.
Did you see? I miss the days of just finding really good British actors. I don't care as much about the star aspect. I like seeing just these really gritty performances from people you didn't recognize.
I don't think I care one way or the other as long as the performance is good.
Both are good, but I do feel that the conversation now is more like, look at Bryce Dallas Howard in Downturn or whatever that's called. As opposed to, it's a different conversation
Nosedive.
now. Nosedive. There we go.
What? Yeah. You're close, but no.
Almost, but not quite.
Now that I think about it, I think there might have been a Nosedive Easter egg in this because
I'm sure.
I forget what it was.
There was. There's a game. I think.
Is there a game?
There is a game.
Oh, the game that he's programming is called Nosedive.
Yes.
All right. That makes me feel better.
A question I wanted to ask you is, did you enjoy this as much as a regular episode of Black Mirror? I guess you kind of answered it.
It's such a loaded question.
That's an honest question. I'd ask you that if we were just sitting at the bar.
But there's so many. I think part of my problem with reviewing Bandersnatch is that I haven't really figured out where to store it away in my brain.
Yeah.
Because it feels... On the one hand, I feel like I naturally want to compare it to all the other Black Mirror episodes I watch, but on the other hand, it's a completely different storytelling format, and I don't even like using the word fair here, but I'm trying to get at the point that it doesn't feel fair to compare it. It's like apples and oranges type
I get
thing.
that.
But
it is also Black Mirror.
I would say that I enjoyed this viewing experience. If you ask me, though, do I want to see another, okay, better question. I was about to say, do you want to see another Black Mirror episode utilize this format? And my answer to that would be yes. But if you had asked an even tougher question, let's say, and said, do you want the next season of Black Mirror to go all out with this format? I would say no.
No.
Too much.
No, and if even to shift that question, we're having a competing round of questions. But do you want the next season of Black Mirror or another Bandersnatch style thing first? I want the next season of Black Mirror first.
All right, I think that
we're on the same page.
That kind of sums up maybe some of the feelings, but without taking away from any of the craftsmanship that we see on display
here. Oh my gosh,
here.
that's something that I find remarkable.
It really is
how they made this.
I can't.
It's incredible.
I can't come anywhere close to wrapping my brain around what it must have taken to put this together. Even watching that featurette that they released, and when you think about it, I mean, actually, the experience of watching it forces you to think about it too, because you see how difficult it is for him as a game programmer to program this one old school game from way back when, and now all of a sudden we're dealing with Netflix and this platform that now has to adopt all this different technology to support a show like this. It really just is mind-boggling. And then when you think about David Slade's work as a director too, it's challenging enough to give someone one story with a definitive beginning, middle, and end. And all of a sudden he has to craft scenes in so many different ways to service this format. I can't applaud the people behind this enough, because it would have been so easy for a format like this to fall flat on its face. So easy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the greatest thing in the world I've ever seen, but the fact that it works as well as it does, huge applause to everybody involved.
I feel like, well, before I forget, did you read the Wired article about how they made it?
I don't think I read a Wired one.
Fantastic. You should read it.
I read a big piece, I believe, on the Hollywood Reporter that talks about some of the technology in play here.
Okay. I didn't read that one. I read the Wired one, and it was really, really good and went into sort of the technology of what it took to make it.
You must send that to me when we're done.
I will. David Slade. I feel like he's being the erased name in this conversation a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And I love his films. Even 30 Days of Night is one I always fight for.
I've got a little bit of an obsession with 30 Days of Night. There has to be a reason to talk about that movie soon. We'll figure it out.
Man, we missed the boat in the winter.
I guess so, yeah.
We'll find it.
30 Days of Night, Hard Candy was one heck of a beginning for him. Well, not beginning, but that was one of my first movies that I ever watched of his.
I think that was my first one, and I was like, whoa, this guy's wild.
Well, I think then when you follow those two movies up with a movie like a Twilight movie, then, you maybe derail a little.
You lose a little of your cred, possibly. However, I will say that is a phenomenal-looking Twilight film. It is gorgeous.
It is not the worst Twilight film.
No. It's not the best either.
No,
I think I've said. I think I've said on here that I actually quite enjoyed the 2-part finale, which is just pure camp ridiculousness, and it's a blast.
I'll get behind that, but
that's fine.
Parts of it maybe.
I defend it. The big battle is hilarious. The birth scene is hilarious. I'm on for all of this. But no, anyway, back to David Slade. I think he's so fantastic, and I think he's such really in a lot of his work, visionary might be too far, but bold storyteller. So he is such a good fit for something like Bandersnatch.
I mean, now that we're talking about it, I can kind of almost see shades of it in, let's say, a 30 Days of Night, just in terms of the atmospheric vibe. Or when I think about Hard Candy, setting most of it in that one house, because the large majority of Bandersnatch does take place in his house, and it's almost got this trapped, claustrophobic vibe to it that I thought came through pretty damn well.
Yeah. I mean, even looking at his other Black Mirror episode, Metalhead, that has that oppressive Black Mirror feeling.
Yep.
Or
I mean, that Easter egg couldn't be more front and center also.
There's a film coming out this year called Nightmare Cinema.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah, it's an anthology that it has a segment by him, by Joe Dante, by Mick Garris, a number of people. And his is so bleak.
Did you see this at Fantastic Fest?
Fantasia. It's so bleak. It feels like it could be a Black Mirror episode, and it also showcases just, I don't know, he's got this, maybe visionary is what I want to say. His work, whether it's on Hannibal, an existing TV show, he brings this stamp, this quality that just wraps you up in an ambiance.
I think part of the reason why we're not talking about him is because the storytelling format itself is so revolutionary.
Yeah,
I feel like
fair.
I've said storytelling format like 500 times. We should turn this into a drinking game.
Yeah.
No, we shouldn't, because you would lose by now.
It's the only way to get through Bandersnatch.
But I do feel like that is assuming the large majority of the spotlight here compared to the individuals involved, which is an interesting discussion to have, especially because, every single time we talk about a new TV show or movie, it's always like, well, who was cast? Who's the big name actor who's going to headline this? So it's nice to see kind of storytelling challenges take the forefront for a change, because it's the way of the future. I mean, this is one of the bright spots, I think, of having streaming services take over, is that there's all this new technology that we haven't even tapped into yet that is going to completely change the game when it comes to how we digest material like this.
It's interesting, too, to think that Netflix has become sort of known as this entertainment platform that a lot of people watch with their phone in one hand, right? So Bandersnatch removes that option. You have to pay attention.
Oh, yeah. No, I did like that part. The one thing I was going to disagree on, or not disagree, but get mad about is, okay, so the way I watched Bandersnatch was over the break. So I was home with my family, and my family loves Black Mirror. And when we found out Bandersnatch was there, we all wanted to watch it together.
Oh.
And it doesn't let you do
No.
that. Or at least, I don't know how many devices this is true for, but you can't watch Bandersnatch on an Apple TV. So we couldn't watch it together.
Oh, interesting.
Which meant that I wanted to watch it and I needed to watch it because I wanted to be informed and didn't want anything spoiled for me. So I had to leave my family and sit by myself and watch it by myself.
Netflix ruining families.
I mean, it's just an
Or
interesting...
not tearing them apart.
It's an interesting point of discussion where, should this format have a communal viewing experience or should it not? Or is it just not possible for it?
I don't even know how you would do choose your own adventure communally unless everyone had like signs with A and B that you held up.
I mean, it would be interesting maybe if it was a group viewing experience and everybody had their own remote. I understand why at this point in time it's not possible, but to take away even the option of, let's say, having one person sit with the Apple remote that wants to watch it with one or two other people, you should I think you still need that.
So but just to be sure that I'm understanding this, you guys could have watched it together had you had like a DVD player, not an Apple TV.
Not a DVD player. So we could have watched it together. All right, here's one thing that I didn't try, but I'll explain what I did. So we couldn't watch it sitting around watching it on the Apple TV.
Yeah.
I can watch it on my iPad. Mm-hmm. So technically, we could have all sat around my teeny tiny iPad and watched it like that. The one thing I didn't try, though, is I didn't try AirPlay with the Apple TV. So actually, now that I think about it, I don't think that would have worked either, because then it would have been projected on the screen. And when you AirPlay something on the iPad, it turns into that gray box.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if that would have worked either.
I don't know. Well, it worked great on Roku.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should look into a format like that. But thinking about, especially, someone maybe of an older generation who isn't super into an iPad or an iPhone, like let's say I am, they would be less likely to watch something. Like let's say you have an older person who has an Apple TV, like a Mac, and also a phone.
Yeah.
They will watch a TV show or a movie on their Apple TV on their big screen, but they won't do that on their computer screen or on their phone. You see what I mean? So it's like you're taking one viewing option completely out of the equation, and then maybe that individual hasn't watched Bandersnatch at all for that reason.
Maybe.
I don't know.
The only people...
That was a tangent.
It was. I just, whenever I think of like older people watching content, I obviously think of my mom and my aunt, both of whom I've tried to like explain Bandersnatch to, and they're like, nah. They are just not interested.
Okay, but would they be interested if it was just a straightforward story that was told to them?
Yes. They don't want to have to work.
Yeah. I would apply the same exact thought process to most people in my life that are older than me.
Yeah, they just want to watch their stories, man.
Yeah, they want the stories told to them, which I can still respect, because it's basically part of what I said earlier, where I'm frustrated by the canon idea.
Yeah.
Like, I want the information cut and dry given to me and to know that that's the real deal, But then again, I love this experience. I think this is another sign of a very bright future for
really
Netflix doing some daring creative things, which we need.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see it applied to different formats. It feels to me like Screen Life, wherein you can make any kind of movie in Screen Life. You can make any kind of story with a Choose Your Own Adventure.
I mean, with what Timur showed us too a while back with his Screen Life, was it a plugin, an application?
The beta plugin. That was cool.
But it's like if you guys missed that episode, there's the movie searching is made in the Screen Life format where the entire thing takes place on a screen. Timur Bekmambetov and his team have developed a plugin that lets you make your own
on your computer.
And the thing is, the video you walk away with it from is clickable, or at least it's meant to be clickable when the plugin is finalized.
That's so wild.
And that right there maybe suggests that Screen Life and the tools he's working on could have a choose your own adventure vibe, where you could be on a video and then navigate to something else. I don't know.
We're like 3 years away from a Screen Life choose your own adventure. That's probably going to happen soon.
I would buy it. Can you remember the days when, we had the Final Destination 3 DVD and it was like that Choose Your Own Adventure? We are so above and beyond that right now.
Forgot about that.
That is a thing. I hadn't thought about it in a very long time until Bandersnatch came out.
Yeah. Oh God, I love Final Destination 3. I can't believe I forgot about that. That's amazing.
That was a thing.
Yeah, we certainly have progressed. The technology has progressed, and
quite a bit.
Yeah, the narrative. Obviously, this was built to be a narrative like that.
Yeah, it was built very, very well. I'm very impressed. So clear. I mean, are you playing the Black Mirror ranking game?
Oh, I guess I could.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a prepared list, but I know my favorites.
Roughly, where would this fall?
Early back half.
Okay.
So, maybe right in that 75th percentile range, 3/4 of the way down my list.
I could see that.
What about you?
I'm in a situation where it would get a boost on the list for the successful use of this format, where I liked how I was engaged and I liked that it made me schwitz a little when I was getting ready to choose an option. And then when I just isolate it to the story itself, that's where it slips down my list a little bit. But I think it's in the middle zone. But also, I think I like more episodes of Black Mirror than most. I think a lot of the ones where they're not many people's favorites, they rank fairly high for me.
Like what?
For what that's worth. Trying to think of some of the season 1 ones that weren't so well received.
So then I'm on the same page.
A Million Merits? Is that what?
I thought that was one of the most beloved ones.
Really?
15 Million Merits?
Yeah, that's the one with the bikes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, because I forgot where I was having this conversation recently, but about season 1, and I feel like when you rank season 1 ones, someone...
Well, there's only 3 in season 1.
All right, well, I think I was just grouping together the first 6 of the Christmas special that I had experienced. But
I see.
Because I had binged season 1, 2, and the Christmas special. Because that was the order, right? It was basically, those were the first 3 in a way, I guess. But after watching those and ranking them, I remember specifically having a conversation about 15 million merits. That's 15 million merits, and someone said, nobody likes that one. What are you talking about?
Well, that's a great example of what I was talking about with Daniel Kaluuya. Nobody knew who he was, and now he's
look
the
at
thing. I'm the same way. I actually prefer almost, except for the Waldo one.
Waldo one's not my favorite.
I prefer the early episodes to the new ones.
God, now I want to make a list.
I know.
Now I'm going through them all. I like this one. I like that one.
I should revisit the Waldo moment, though, because it was fairly prescient given our election. And that's an interesting element of it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So I should revisit that. I didn't like it at the time.
Back. What's your favorite?
Be right back.
Can you guess my favorite?
Oh.
You should be able to.
Should I?
Yeah. We've also had a conversation very recently that could lead you to my favorite.
Oh, well, Christ, Perri, we have so many conversations.
The Entire History of You. It's the third one in season 1.
Yes, with your true love.
Toby Kebbell.
Yes.
Toby Kebbell.
I like that one. That one's good. Be Right Back devastated me for a full week.
That would be my second favorite one. I had a tough time with that one as well. White Christmas is also great.
White Christmas is great.
Playtest is up there as one of my favorites.
Doesn't do it for me the way it does. And
Wyatt Russell.
I love Wyatt Russell.
I know.
Yeah, no, I don't know why it doesn't, but San Junipero is incredible.
A lot of these are really freaking good.
They're really good. They're really strong.
Hang the DJ is one of my favorites of the more recent options.
That was cute.
I like cute.
Yeah, it's fine.
I like cute.
I do definitely, looking at this list, I prefer the earlier episodes. Oh,
I don't know if I do.
With exceptions. USS Callister.
See, this is the problem. You start to sort through them, and it's you're forced into one batch of them, and all of a sudden you realize, really, scrolling through this list right now, this is a pretty solid show across the board.
Pretty incredible, and I guess maybe there's also something to be said for, in me, diminishing returns when we get 10 episodes in a season, where I was used to getting 3 in a season. And they feel overwhelming and less special or something.
I definitely do hope that they never exceed 6 in a season. Because I also enjoy the binge watch conversation. As in, when you finished all 6, and then you could talk about these 6 specific stories versus, if I feel like if there were any more than that, it would dilute the conversation after, if that makes sense.
What I feel is that it already has. Like doubling the order has changed things, and that's whatever. That's me being like, catch up with the times, Haleigh. It's on Netflix
Watch faster.
now.
Why not?
No, I just So. Big fan of Black Mirror.
Yes.
Love what they did here in terms of pioneering and mostly story.
I think I will echo that. And I mean, hopefully you've watched it, but in case you haven't watched it at this point, I recommend you watch it. I recommend that you watch almost all episodes of Black Mirror.
Definitely.
This was wonderful. Haleigh, where can everyone find you on the internet?
You can find me on Collider.com, where I run our horror content. You can find me on Twitter at Haleigh Fouch, and you can find me on Instagram at HaystackMcGroovy.
And you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at PNemiroff. I'll just stop there for now. But don't forget to catch new episodes of The Witching Hour every single Tuesday. We got a lot of cool ones, and we have an especially cool one coming up this Tuesday. You might have heard of a little movie called Destroyer, and hey, maybe the director Karan Kusama is joining us. You're going to have to tune in on Tuesday to find out, but you should. Thank you guys so much for watching this Black Mirror Bandersnatch review. You have officially survived The Witching Hour.